Good morning and welcome to Mountain Moments. This is Judith Garten and I'm here today for the prepper portions. Now, I wanted to talk to you today about my favorite herbal books. If you're going to be learning how to use herbals at home for yourself, your family, you need resources. And when I was first learning about herbals, I was taught you should always have at least 3 good reference books to turn to in any situation that comes up in your family. Over time, I've learned that 3 was actually never enough for me. As we moved from one state to another, I discovered that the books I used in New Jersey were not as helpful in West Virginia. Why? Because there are many native plants that grow here in the Appalachians, which are not commonly used, but are not necessarily common to those who wrote the books I used for 2 decades. So, I started looking into new books to purchase, and I asked several people I know and I trust for their references that they use and what are their favorite books. I started on a journey exploring different books. I added, I believe it was 6 new books to my list, and I went shopping and I found a bunch on abebooks.com. That is a great resource for buying books less than retail. I love ABE books. You should check it out. So recently I purchased these new books. I have them here. I bought the Herb Bible by Peter McCoy and Pamela Westland, and I also picked up the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook, a home manual. Love both of these books. They're great resources. They will come in handy in your library. And I have here, let me reach down here, a stack of my other favorite books. Oh goodness, they're hard to read with the bright sunshine today. There we go. Let me go over those just really quickly. I have a book on making hydrosols, which is very wonderful. It is by Suzanne Caddy. So that is a great book. Herbs for Health and Healing. This was one of the first ones I bought. I like this one. It is a great book. Goes into how many drops, if you're going to be using different types of formulas, whether it's tinctures, whether it is glycerates, or whether you're using essential oils. They tell you how many drops, especially for ages. I like that chart in this book. We have the Herbal Drugstore. Let me set this one aside really quick. Herbal Antibiotics. Essential Oils Desk Reference. This is a very in-depth book. It is put out and compiled by Essential Science Publishing. I have not been able to find this one recently except for used. I like the older volumes. And this is the 4th edition. I also own The Chemistry of Man. It is important that you understand your body, your chemistry, and how you are as an individual, and recognize when things are off balance in you. That is a wonderful thing to do, be able to recognize what your body needs. I can always tell when I need to cut back on gluten. I can always tell because I've learned to recognize the signs and symptoms that affect my body. And this is by Bernard Jensen, PhD. And one of my absolute favorites, I've actually had to replace this, I think, at least twice. This is the Prescription for Nutritional Healing. This goes into not just herbals, this goes into great things for eating better. And everybody needs to eat better. Helps our immune system stay strong in this strange times we live in. But now, my 3 favorites. I'm going to talk about these in a moment. When I purchased my new purchases, I was very intrigued by going through them. And interestingly enough, several of the books we now own say things on them like complete herbal Bible or complete herbal dictionary, complete reference, or encyclopedia. And yet not one of these books I just showed you is complete. And neither are the 5 I recently bought. They are not complete at all. Each one of these books contains different herbs from each other. There are a lot of similarities, yes, but there are differences. Borage is in 3 of my new books, but it's not in 4 others that we already own. They've never discussed the uses or how to use, how to harvest, how to grow borage. And it is one that I like to use as a tea. So I needed to learn about that. In my 3 new books, it's in there. I can learn more. And each one shares different details, which is intriguing. You might suggest that it's in those books under a different name. No, it's not in these other books at all. And this is not the only example. I'm going to tell you about one that several years ago I had actually picked some goldenrod. And I learned more about goldenrod in these new books than I ever have before. You know, I've discovered that many herbs are marked safe, but have serious side effects for certain individuals, especially people who have certain ailments or on prescription medications. My parents were both on, and a number of people, not myself, who would recommend that they take certain herbals, but my dad was on blood thinners. And one example I can give you was he was told to take a particular thing for brain health so that he was able to maintain strong brain health in his older years. However, that particular herb has several contraindications with specific medications that are used to treat heart, blood pressure, stroke, blood clots, and things like that. My father should not have been taking that herb in any form at all. It could have caused him serious harm. He stopped, for which I am very grateful. My mom, on the other hand, was a diabetic. A number of herbs tell you that if you are a diabetic, do not use these herbs, not even as herbal teas, which we all enjoy herbal teas. Some are very relaxing, some are uplifting. You need to be careful, you need to be aware, and so these books will help you. Now, here is one. This one was a big no-no. One of my new books brings up goldenrod, and there is goldenrod which grows around here, and years ago I picked some, stuck it in the freezer, and I was going to use it later on in the winter. I was going to make myself some hydrosol from it. And I discovered, actually ended up throwing it away just as recently, and it was 2 years old. But I discovered in reading one of my books that you have to be very careful with goldenrod, as well as other plants. Apparently there are plants that grow in certain areas that look very similar to goldenrod and yet are deadly poisonous. Danger. Be aware of what you're picking. You don't want to harm anyone else. I'm not a big fan, I know a lot of people do it, of harvesting mushrooms, wild mushrooms, because we had an experience once where we ran into a situation where we had gone to a restaurant, and not long afterwards a number of people became critically ill having eaten wild harvest mushrooms. It turned out to be poison. So be aware of what you're doing. Now, I find myself praising God very deeply that we never attempted to use that goldenrod in anything, and I now may only use it for outdoor decorations, not even bringing it in the house, because I want to ensure that I'm actually picking goldenrod. I even wondered at the time why there were 3 different types that looked 3 different ways. And I looked through all the books I used to have. There were no warnings in any of those books, and they were not in 2 of my top 3 picks. It was only in 1. And when I researched it, it was very true. So as you can see, it is very important to verify your findings, and I used to use 3 or 4 references. I am now going to go to as many as possible to verify, especially something that I'm not 100% sure of, something that I've not used in the past or not researched or studied out in the past. So I'm going to show you now very quickly my top 3 and exactly why I like them. Now this first one, oh, I forgot to mention, I also have done in the past, because I had dogs and cats, I've made sure that I was aware of what not to use with both dogs and cats in my home, because I did not want to cause them harm either. So if you can get yourself a good reference, this is Dr. Pitcairn's Complete Guide to Natural Health for Dogs and Cats. Love it. It is a great resource. So I guess I do have 4 favorites. Now, I'm going to first show you the one that was expensive. I actually don't remember whether I paid $27 or $37 for this one. This was an ad on social media. Someone else I know was interested in buying this book, and I actually had money set aside to buy a number of new books to add to our herbal library because I knew we needed more, especially for around the Appalachians. I want to learn more about the plants that are here. And my friend suggested I pick up, well, actually she asked, she didn't suggest I pick up this book. My friend asked if I knew anything about this book, and I suggested I would like to buy this book, and I'll let you know what I think. And this is The Lost Book of Herbal Remedies. You have probably seen this book advertised, and I will give you a heads up. It's a typical infomercial style purchase. All right, number 1. But I do love this book. It is by Nicole Apelian, PhD, and Claude Davis. It is an excellent resource. Now, you will read on places like Amazon. Some of the reviews do claim that there are photographs that are out of place, missing entries, things like that. I have not found that experience with my copy of the book. I also looked for this one used online, could not find it used. I found a number of people claiming to sell it used, but what they were selling was access to a PDF version of the book, and I was not happy about that. I did not feel that that was appropriate or honest. So if you're going to buy this book, plan on spending what it is unless you can find a copy used, which I have not been able to do. So I paid full price for this book. Not something I like to do. I prefer to buy used. But it is very, very detailed. I love the fact that there are color photos of a lot of the, oops, get back in the camera, my apologies. There are color photos of a lot of the herbs that are in here. There are descriptions of identifying it, edible uses for the herbs, what people have in the past used the herb for. And it is extensive. It covers a lot of different varieties. This might have actually been the one that talked about goldenrod. I do love this book. I keep this one handy. We actually just went on a trip recently, and when we went on that trip, I took these 3 favorites with me just in case. My second one is the Complete Medicinal Herbal, and it's not complete. I'm sorry, but it's not. It's not 100% complete. I am beginning to think that if a book for herbals is complete, it's going to be about 18 inches thick or more if you look at that pile on my chair over here. This one is another one that is excellent. It has history of herbals. It also talks about coming out of the dark ages with herbals, coming out of the time periods where, you know, women were considered witches for using them. I'm trying to get you a good photo. I'm trying to look at the camera and it talks about how to make meals that will help your body heal. It also goes into individual descriptions of various herbs. There, you can see that. And it talks about what the applications are for those herbs. Now, there are a lot of things in this book that I really appreciated because they're mentioned in here and I've not found them in other books. This one came in very handy for identifying things that are already growing in our yard or in the wild around us. This came in handy. I also like this handy chart that is here. It talks about if you're having tension headaches, what can you do to reduce the tension headaches? So it goes into great detail on those as well. There are also ideas in here for, this is one of my favorite areas, infusing oils. If you cannot get your hands on the stronger essential oils, or if you are like me, my immune system is hyperactive, and I cannot tolerate essential oils. If I use an essential oil on my skin, I immediately break out in hives. So infusing oils has come in very handy. It helps to make a more mild concoction. And this is my other favorite. It is also the Complete Book of Herbs. This one is by Leslie Bremnes, and it is also very bright, very colorful, very extensive. Oh, good page to open up to. This is thymes, if you'll look. These are the various types of thyme that you can get and plant in your garden. So if you are interested in herbals, those are my top 3 favorites. I will put a list in the comments or in the description below of my top favorites, and if you are interested in the other ones, I will also be happy to post them on biblicalprepping.com. Again, that is biblicalprepping.com. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that it has been helpful in helping you to choose good quality. Make sure you're picking out great books. All right, thank you, and blessings. Shalom.